Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Vandy. So back on the Card Fight Vanguard deck profile. This time we're covering Dragon Empire, Eugene from set 7. So Eugene was, for the long story short, Eugene was the original Dragon Empire deck I thought I would main from Overdress. Clearly I was wrong, as evidenced by the existence of my Nirvana decks. But Eugene was always the one where I was like, I want to play it, but it didn't fit my style. Set 3 gave me some really good cards for Eugene, but I just couldn't connect with them. Set 4 made it a little bit easier, and then came these things from set 7, and now Eugene kind of feels like, hey, I was right. Eugene would feel comfortable to me at some point, and now it does. So let's go ahead and get this deck profile started, shall we? Because honestly, I'm very glad I can finally play Eugene comfortably. First up, we have our starter and double gun of Duststorm Bart. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base. Auto when you rode upon him. If you went second, draw a card. Standard starter, no special about it. Basically, if you went second, you draw. Pretty nice. It's just all around. You can really pick any starter you want, but, you know, want to go with the full ride line. Also, this one I actually have bias for because, you know, double guns, as we all know. Big fan of double pistols, and I classify those two as pistols, even if they're technically not. So, yeah, double Duststorm Bart, this is my starter. Then we have our Overtrigger and Dragon Deity King of Resurgence, Dragveda. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power, Overtrigger, my mode Overtrigger deck, and your deck reveals a card, reveals a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your 8 to get plus 1 mana for the turn, and if you revealed it, your activation factor, which is choose one of your vanguards, stand it. So, pretty good, you know, standard 1 million draw regardless of how you check it, and then if you win a van, you get to stand it. Can kind of lead to some bullshit, because in certain combos you can get 3 vanguard attacks in this deck now, which is interesting. You know, before we had 1 at max 2, now we have 3 for some reason. So, Dragveda is just good. Having that extra vanguard reset on Eugene is nice, especially if you don't end up sacking Eugene all the time, and not to mention you can technically stack your drive checks, so at least prevent yourself from decking out. All the way, Dragveda is nice having that extra vanguard reset on Eugene now, because now we don't have to worry about decking out, and we can get more vanguard attacks and more pressure. So, yeah, it's just the better Overtrigger in my opinion. I mean, if you want to run Obari, you can, but I have not seen people run Obari in a long time. Frankly, I forgot Obari was a thing until I started the sentence. So yeah, Dragveda is the Overtrigger for obvious reasons. Then we have our normal triggers. First up, we have 3 copies of the Draw Trigger Flail Dragon, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base, draw against guard circle, opponent's vanguards are grade 3 or great, he gets plus 5k shield. I just like Flail. You can really use any draw trigger though if you want the 5k shield. Obviously you pick Flail. You don't need draws because the deck makes its board on its own, though I do just like having the draws to gather hand cards so I can do early game rushes and so I have targets to rest. Also because the deck doesn't deck itself out that quickly unless you use Eugene twice, which has been occasions. That, and you miss all of the cards that send stuff back to deck. So, I like Flail. It's a good grade 0, like the draw trigger 3 of. Then we have our 4 fronts and Blaze, Man, and Parama. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base, front continues guard circle. 8 opponents vanguards are grade 3 or great, plus 5k shield. You know, 20k shield with plus 10 to front row. What doesn't sound good about it? It just adds more numbers, makes your rear guards more dangerous. Why not run out of 4? Even though slowly but surely she has stopped showing up in all of my decks, which makes me a little bit sadder. But hey, good front. Why not run as a 4 of? Then we have our 4 crits and Burning Flail, Dragon, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power, critical trigger, auto rate, the end battle of this unit boosted, put it to soul, choose one of your units, gets plus 2 for the turn. Okay, good crit all around, get you to soul if you really need it, though that's never really, well, it's happened more and more lately, but never really needed it before, and 2k doesn't affect anything, but it's nice having it in case you really do need it, so 4 of Burning Flail. It's just good. It's a crit, want to stack crits. And then we have our 4 heals in White Light Dragon Parasolace, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power. This deck goes the definition of it, unless I'm going against a deck that really hits numbers like Bastion or Greedon, the freaking effect heals do absolutely nothing. Like, we all know I don't like the effect heals. They're a little bit too gimmicky, especially because if you don't run into that situation where they actually go off, then, you know, they're kind of not doing anything. They become vanillas and 10k shields and not that useful. So I like the 15k shield, especially in this deck where I actually have a constant line of defense power to where unless I'm fighting against something like Bastion or Greedon, who are constantly swinging in the 50s or 80s, the heals aren't going to do shit for me, so I might as well just run the normal heals and then just pray I don't run into either of those two anyways, because like I said, those effect heals would only be useful in those 2 specific situations, because every other situation, my other triggers guard them normally. So, 4 of Parasolace, just good to have. I like the 15k shield. Then move on to our grade 1s. 3 copies of the thing I somehow see more often than not, and I question how many times I run her at a 4 of and not realize it, because I feel like I do. Beautiful Bullet of Duststorm Jody. I swear, there was a game where I could think I saw 4 of them, but but I only run 3 of them. So either I'm crazy and I thought it was something else than it really was, or I did have a 4th one, I just wasn't paying attention. Either way, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, act rear once per turn. If your Vanguard has Eugene its card name, says Eugene its card name. For the record, if we get a grade 4 Eugene, after I upload this deck profile, I'm straight up putting in the comments all copies of grade 4 Eugene, because I want to see it happen. But yeah, Eugene is card name, so they're hinting at at least an evolution or something different. Soul Blast 1, choose a grade 2 list nominator other than a Sentinel from your drop, put it to top or bottom. Okay. Oh, he sent it to bottom too. I thought it was just top. Oh, that's much better than I thought it was. So not only can you just get your units back, so even if you're not going to stack your drive check like I do, you get your units back, but you could also put them to top, so guarantee when you use Eugene's skill, you can call them from the top cards. Granted, it costs a Soul Blast, but hey, you can technically put the card you Soul Blast at top, so as long as you're not seeing a PG from it or a trigger, all around, pretty good. I like Jody. She increases my chance of Eugene actually proccing off. Oh, weirdly enough, the second I put her in, even though I only use her once a game more or less, she seems to have fixed my luck problem with Eugene to where now I only see 1 to 2 triggers instead of 4 triggers. So Jody all around pretty nice. Just gives me a deck stack, and now that I know I can send stuff to bottom, makes it even easier because now I can save my deck cards without having to use Eugene's skill. So 3 of Jody. Then we have 4 copies of Assaulting Bullet of Duststorm Oswald. So Oswald, who I now realize this is either a dragon or like, you know, what's it called? Something that, like, the gun holster that is a dragon, but goddamn, that looks cool as hell. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto rear. At the end of battle, he boosted a Vanguard with Eugene's card name. If your opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or greater and they have no rear guards, by counterblasting 1 and discarding 1, choose a Vanguard, choose one of your Vanguards, by the way, stand it, increase or decrease its critical and drive to 1 for the turn. So, all around, pretty good. Gets that Vanguard restand. Eugene does not use up that much counterblast. I don't think he uses up any counterblast. Trying to remember now what in this deck counterblast. One other card in this deck counterblast. So you really pretty much have free reign with this thing, and not to mention the fact the easiest discard ever because you're just going to get it back anyways, and you definitely have your twin drive. So all around, cool, nice restand. My only issue is I wish it didn't say Vanguard, because then that means you could abuse the fuck out of this on the rear guard, and you'd have to sacrifice your persona rights to do it. So I feel like there wouldn't be too much of a problem, but hey, I could see it being a problem for some people. So cool. Being able to restand the Vanguard is pretty nice. It has to drop your critical to 1 or lower to 1, sadly, because there's such a thing as Tribash spamming, and it has to drop your drive to 1. My thing is, though, does it work in the same way as Sequena from Youthberg, where if you increase it afterwards, does it actually go up? Like how you can do Sequena skill to give your Youthberg a drive, and then you use Gus skill to give himself another drive? Or does it only work in the sense that if you see, regardless, if you see a crit or not, his crit's not increasing back? Or will his crit actually crit if you see like a crit or use a Tribash on Eugene? That's my question, because no one has answered it yet. But either way, Oswald is still pretty good. I like him, gets that restand, makes Vanguard pressure far more dangerous, and this deck has somehow turned into a beat stick. So 4 of Oswald, because I'm pretty sure he has something to do with it. Then we have our 4 PGs in our last grade 1 that isn't in the ride deck, which is Twin Buckler Dragon. So grade 1 boost, 0 shield, 6k base, contains Sentinel, 4 signs of the deck, and auto ones put on guard circle, choose one of your units that cannot pay in the battle, and if your hand is 2 or more cards, discard from this hand and discard it. All around, standard PG, no special about it. Basically, that means if this and only one of the cards in your hand when you place it on guard circle, you don't have to discard, and that all around is a pretty nice benefit, because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game, and then still have this on the defense, and that actually works out really well with this deck, because since, you know, your opponent's at grade 3 or greater, and they have no rear guards, Vanguard restand, you can attack them in the early game, set up for the late game, do the restand, and now they're pressured because you can constantly kill their rear guards. They have to drop a lot of cards for defending because they already hit high damage, and then the PG can come back and save you later because, you know, you kind of went all out in the early game. And not to mention, this will kind of fetch you backhand cards, especially with the draw trigger. So all around, Twin Buckler is really nice. You can really run any of the 2 PGs that has a skill. I forgot what the other one's called. I think it's called like Plasma something, or maybe Plasma Dragon. I don't know. Point is, Twin Buckler is amazing. I like him. He's just a nice PG, and he's always there when I need him to be. Yes, I mean always when I need him to be. I don't know why. He just is. 4 of Twin Buckler. Then we have our last grade 1 in the ride deck, or sorry, our last grade 1 in general, not in the ride deck. That would be a fun mechanic, though, multiple units in the ride deck of the same grade. Anyways, our last grade 1, the one in the ride deck, is Gunning of Duststorm Nigel. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto when rode upon by Cataclysmic Bullet of Duststorm Randor, Soul Charge 1, and auto rear when your opponent's rear guard is killed during your main phase, counterblast 1 retired list unit, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, kill it. Okay. Though technically the second skill will never go off, there is a way to pull it off now by Soul Blasting him out, putting him to top of Jody's skill, because Jody allows you to Soul Blast it and then put it to top for some reason. So even if you have no cards in your drop zone when you use her, somehow, you can just put the card you Soul Blast at the top, and then you get to call this boy, and then you can just kill. So all around, pretty nice. Get you that free Soul Charge, which is a big thing for Eugene, and not to mention the fact that if you really need to use the Counter Blast to kill something, you can kill it, and not to mention it opens up your board so you can call over that empty spot with Eugene. So Nigel's pretty nice, has Rest Fodder for Eugene's skill, is finally callable now, so there is really no reason to run in the main deck, and has that Soul Charge skill when showed upon by the specific grade 2. What's not to like about it? One of in the right deck. Then we have our grade 2s. 3 copies of Twin Bullet of Duststorm Travis. Grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base. Again, I say dual guns, obviously bias. Act rear once per turn. If your opponent's rear guards retired this turn, counter blast 1, Soul Charge 1, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, murder it, and it gets plus 10. So all around pretty nice. It only costs a counter blast. On the downside is it costs a counter blast, but thankfully this is the only other card in the deck to my memory that costs a counter blast, so you know, Oswald basically gets to go off whenever, and if you want to use him, sure, go ahead. But getting that plus 10 is pretty nice because, you know, 20k, and you get a Soul Charge out of it too, meaning that if you really need to start repopulating your board because maybe you're in a comeback-based situation, Travis all around really helped. I remember that one game where I was in a comeback situation, and Travis fixed all of my problems because he gave me the last soul I needed, and I got the perfect top 5 ever without the help of Jody because Jody wasn't there, though she was in the top 5, and then Travis just led to a stupid combo, and I won that turn because Travis was a 20k swinger. Actually, 40k swinger because I also Persona Road and I gave him a crit. So all around, Travis is amazing. I like the free soul. I like the plus 10. I like the double guns. He's just an amazing grade 2. He has literally, every time he shows up, he kind of like fixes any problem I have in the moment. So 3 of Travis. If he countercharged, he would honestly be a perfect grade 2, and I would run him at 4. But thankfully he doesn't, because then I would have to question Bushy's logic on making cards. 3 of Travis. He's just good. Then we have 3 copies of Strong Fortress Dragon Gibrabrachio. Sure. Grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base, act rear. If you have a Vanguard with heavy artillery or Duststorm Eugene, Soul Blast 1, rest this unit, choose an opponent's rear guard, murder it. Okay. Soul Blast and rest, kill something. Fair. And then auto rear at the start of your battle phase. If your opponent has one of his rear guards, stand him, he gets plus 5 for the turn. Honestly, this unit used to be my favorite grade 2 in the deck. Like, every set they've given me a new grade 2 to like, but this used to be my new grade, or my favorite grade 2, and slowly over time he began to stop showing up a lot, and he began just to like not be my favorite because honestly he does the least. Like, yeah, the standing's nice, and the resting and killing something just for a Soul Blast is nice, but honestly half the time I don't need that extra kill. The 5k is nice, but like I said, the other 2 grade 2s I have here actually get more power because 20k, and the one after this is most likely a 20k and doesn't actually cost a soul unless it's to get to the 20k. He actually gives me a soul too. So like, Gibrabrachio he's good, don't get me wrong. It's a nice kill, it's a possible plus 5, and it's good in the early game if your opponent spawned down a board and you have nothing else, but Gibrabrachio is kind of like, once the game gets going, he's kind of just there. So 3 of Gibrabrachio. He's good, but he's just there. He doesn't really have any big purpose, which is sad because he's my favorite one, or used to be my favorite one. Then we have 4 copies of the boy, the Chad, the myth, the legend, Howitzer of Duststorm Dustin. I just learned where that statement came from, like the something, the legend, something. I remember, I just learned where that came from. Anyways, Howitzer of Duststorm Dustin, grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base. My favorite grade 2 now, or like tied with Travis at least. Auto when he's placed on rear, if you have a Vanguard heavy artillery or Duststorm Eugene in his card name, put it, or if your Vanguard is that grade 3 specifically, put a hand card to soul, draw a card, choose your opponent's grade 2 or grade rear guards, murder it, and then auto rear when it attacks, Soul Blast 1. This unit gets plus 2k ton of turn for each of your opponent's open rear guards. I don't know what it was I heard from someone. I think this is what I heard. They said Eugene has a problem of retiring grade 1s. How? This. Eugene himself. This. Straight up. We don't have problems retiring grade 1s. I've never seen Eugene have a problem with retiring grade 1s. But okay. Anyways, all around pretty good skill. You know, it can be placed from anywhere. It can also be placed via Eugene's effect, meaning if you call from the top 5, you can still get that hand card to soul, get a draw, and then kill something. And then not to mention the fact that the on attack plus 10, if your opponent has basically an open board, is pretty nice. I don't like that second ability simply because it's the ability that like is either the ability that wins me the game or does absolutely nothing, because adding that 10k has never made the difference. Literally, like, it's made the difference in the sense that it will win. If it's the final attack, it's the one that wins it. But if it's not the final attack, or like if it's not, basically what I'm trying to say is this: if it's the turn where I know I'm not gonna win, that 10k does absolutely nothing. But if it's the turn I am gonna win, that 10k is instrumental to the reason I win. Basically it's that. It's either the reason I win or does absolutely nothing besides waste a soul. So 4 of Dustin, he's good. Gets me soul, kills units, gets a draw to replace the hand card you put to soul, and is sometimes the reason I win games. So 4 of Dustin, honestly, one of my favorite grade 2s in this deck. He looks cool. I like his jacket because it looks like it floats really nicely. Just a 4 of grade 2. Then we have our last grade 2, one of in the ride deck of Cosmetic Bullet of Duststorm Randor. Grade 2 5 Kishio, 10k base, auto and wrote upon by Heavy Artillery of Duststorm Eugene. Draw a card, choose up to 1 card from your draw, put it to soul. I always forget that it's up to, so technically you don't have to, but I greatly question why you wouldn't. And then auto Vanner rear when this unit attacks. If your opponent has 2 or less rear guards, by counterblasting 1 soul charge when this unit gets +5 for the battle. Okay, so just like with Nigel, there's a way to soul blast it out and then put it back to top of Jody, but I feel like I'm the only person, or one of the only few people nowadays, that still uses Randor's on attack effect because it's funny just to get a soul charge and +5. You know what the stupid part about it is? Every time I do it, I get a critical trigger out of it. So, or not a soul charge critical trigger, but I will drive check a critical trigger. So I feel like I'm doing the smart thing by doing it because I know how my deck works and I know what I can do to force crits to the top. So all around, Randor's pretty nice. He gets you that possible soul charge if you need it. The extra 5k in the early game is pretty nice, especially if you're going on a rush. And not to mention the fact that free draw and put a card to soul for if you ride upon him with specific grade 3 is all around really nice. I like Randor. He's a nice grade 2. He's one of my favorites in looks, and I really like the name Cataclysmic Bullet. And to this day, I still hate the fact that Eugene's name is just Eugene, but A, and the fact that it's Heavy Artillery instead of Cataclysmic Artillery, but A. Still a good grade 2 nonetheless, and I like it, so one of them in the ride deck. Especially because, oh wait, yeah, I forgot about that with Jody. Sorry, I've been lying this whole time. You can't put Nigel and Randor back to deck with Jody because it works just like it does with Greedon and that bird because they're coming from the ride deck, so you can't put them back to the main deck. Whoops, forgot about that. So, you know, Jody can't do that, but, you know, she can still fuck with everyone else in this deck that isn't the PG, so all around pretty good nonetheless, even if you can't get Randor back. But, hey, he's nice. You can at least pull him off, so one of them in the ride deck. Then we move on to our grade 3s. 3 copies of Penetrate Dragon Tribash. Grade 3 turns out Persona at 13k base, auto rear when your Vanguard attacks. If your opponent has 2 or less rear guards, put it to soul, choose a Vanguard, gets a crit for the battle. Okay, what was the reason of this dropping it down to 1 then? Because by that wording, I feel like this has to drop it for the whole turn, and not just drop it for, like, the moment. Again, I say, if it doesn't just drop it for the moment, like Sequina does, so if you stack it with another effect or a critical, it will actually increase, or does it stay that way the whole turn? Because if it doesn't change, then what was the point of this? What was the point of, like, reducing its crit to 1? Because Tribash doesn't stay a critical. I mean, I guess maybe because you sack crits and put it on Van or something, I don't know. Point is, Tribash is nice. We all know what Tribash does. If you ever played Eugene, I guarantee, and lost to it, I guarantee Tribash was the reason you lost at some point. Because I remember distinctly when I first played Eugene, or like when Eugene first came out, one of the main things I would see with every deck that won with Eugene is Eugene would swing, going first, grade 3 turn, Tribash, 2 Tribash go off, double crit to Van, someone's at 1 or 2 damage, and then they just sack 2 crit and it's game. That was the constant way I saw Eugene 1 when it, like, set 1. Eugene would just constantly do it, and everyone would underestimate it, and then just double crit, double Tribash, everything. Death. And it was funny, and the best part is I did to someone too, and I didn't even have 7 crits in my deck. I just had 4, like the pleb, so basically I was doing it easier. I had anime logic on my side. So Tribash is just good. Getting the extra crit's amazing, adds pressure, aka if you see this thing, your opponent's fucked, and this is probably the reason why Jody's restricted to grade 2s. I mean, that and Persona Ride, but, you know, I'm pretty sure it's more this than Persona Ride. Yeah, plus 10 to front row, or instant PG the Vanguard. So 3 of Tribash. Just a good card, adds crits, and the second you see this thing come down, burn it with a pitchfork, basically. Then we have our last unit in the deck, though it's not our last card. 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck of Heavy Artillery of Duststorm Eugene. My boy, the man, the myth, the legend himself that has become the hashtag Eugene best deck. Where did that originate from? Why do people call Eugene best deck? Did it just seem like the least impressive to people and that's why they called it best deck as a joke and then it just slowly became really good? Or is it just something else? I never understood that joke, honestly, and I'm still trying to figure it out now. Anyways, Eugene, grade 3 turn Persona at 13k base, act Van once per turn, res 2 rear guards, choose an opponent's rear guard, kill it, and this unit gets plus 10 for the turn. Cool. Simple cost because it doesn't cost Counterblast or Soul Blast. If you rest the Brachio, he'll just stand himself, and if you rest Dustin, well, you probably already used Dustin, so, and you can rest the Tribash because they'll go to Soul anyways. Basically, we have full rest fodder that we can use. He'll get plus 10 from it, and then someone still dies, and then the ability that is cock blocked if your opponent doesn't have rear guards or has rear guards with resist, act Van once per turn. If your opponent's rear guard was retired this turn, Soul Blast 5, look at the same number of cards on top of your deck as the number of open rear guard circles on your opponent's board. Choose Choose any number of unit cards from them, call them to rear, or put the rest to soul. I don't know why, but lately I've been thinking Eugene's a constant top 5 search, and maybe that's because every time I used his skill before, I would constantly look at the top 5 because I would literally have no opposition on my opponent's board. All of their rear guards would be dead. But either way, pretty nice that pretty much when you use this, you're probably going to search at least the top 3, so you get more rear guards, you get stuff to soul. I know what their intention was behind it, but I feel like every time I saw Eugene be played, it always differed between players, like, and not like just deck builds, but like just different how it would work for players. Like, I know my friend had better luck with it than I did, because I know every time I would use his skill, I see like 3, possibly 4 triggers in my top 5, and most of the time, there was an over among them. Like, more, like, I think 4 out of 5 attempts with Eugene, an over would be when I use his skill. So, it's like, kind of annoying, but then I know my friend, he would never see the over. In fact, he would see the over after he did it, so he would drive check it and then just kill me with it. And his top 5 would be like, okay, so like he would see 2 triggers, and then he would see like 3 decent units. Like, maybe he can't use those units right now, but he see at least 3 different decent units that he can call to board. So all around, Eugene was pretty nice. Now he's being a lot more consistent with me, and this because I have Jody to bribe him to work with me. But either way, pretty nice. Get you that rear guard, get you attack, especially now that I actually can get a consistent, really good board. It definitely becomes dangerous because you can work with it during the main phase. Only downside is it's locked behind your opponent, rear guard retiring this turn. So if they don't call shit, then you can't use them, but he's still pretty good nonetheless. So 3 of them in the main deck, 1 of them in the right deck. And I move on to our last card, which is the all-powerful order, which everyone said was good for Eugene. I didn't think so in set 3. I don't know why. I just felt really awkward using it in set 3, and now I finally agree. It feels really good using it, and that is Best Harvest. Grade 3 normal order. Choose one of your vanguards. Until end of turn, it gets auto-van when your opponent's rear guard is retired during your main phase. Draw a card. All around, pretty great. You can now use this in Nirvana, which will be abusable in the near future. But basically, it's just good for Eugene, because if they actually, for some reason, committed a full board against you like an idiot, assuming that they can repopulate that board very quickly, and most of that board probably has resist, but in case for some reason they didn't have resist, and they just called a full board on you, you can nuke all of it and then draw 5. And honestly, this card's good because while it does put you very much closer to deck out, you can do a funny combo my friend did with Randor and Eugene, where, I don't remember, I think he was like, he used Eugene to rest, and then he used Eugene to rest 2 Tribash, murder rear guard, plus 10 to Vanguard, draw a card. Then he called a Brachio. No, he called a Dustin. Used Dustin, kill rear guard, draw a card, draw another card. Oh yeah, draw the first card from the Best Harvest. And then used Eugene's skill to top 5, or top 3, I think it was. Called a Dustin and a Brachio. Use that Dustin to kill another rear guard, draw 2 more cards. And then use Brachio's skill to kill another rear guard, and then draw another card. Basically, he got a new hand. And then he also called a grade 1, like the, what's it called, Oswald, to like the back center. So all around, Best Harvest can lead to some stupid shenanigans, get you hand for defensive purposes, just basically sets you up if you need the defensive. So 3 of Best Harvest, it's just good. It gets you hand, and that's all you need to know about it, because it does it for free. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck is pretty fun. Yeah, now I can finally say I do actually enjoy playing Eugene. It feels really comfortable. It feels like now I'm finally in tune with it. Gets to kill rear guards. Gets to like make a board from nowhere. Gets to do a lot of drawing. All around, it's amazing. If for some reason we get a grade 4 Eugene, I'm gonna fucking cry, and I'm gonna put like what I would take out in this deck profile as comments. Please, Bushy, give us a grade 4 Eugene. I beg of you, God. So without further ado, I'm going to end it here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.